chain. What a wonderful day to be alive in the land of the living today. And so I just want to thank those of you who joined us early. We're inviting you to encourage others to share the link and to be a part of this program, for truly there is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain. Welcome on this pleasant Sunday afternoon. Let's just pause for a brief word of prayer. For those listening on Global 99.5, those on Cable TV 974, those persons on Facebook, Transforming Lives, as well as the YouTube channel, Transforming Lives Radio Show. Let's just pause right now, just for a brief word of prayer. Our Father and our God, we thank you. We come to another name, with the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Now we commit this program into your hands. We commit the airways before you. We ask your blessings on the participants. And at the end of the show, may the name of Christ be lifted up for your honor, for your glory and praise. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. So folks, I just want to thank you for joining us this Sunday afternoon on this program, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. Welcome those of you who are early. And so we invite you as I speak to share the link, invite persons now, let them know the program is on live. They can join us by Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, Cable TV 974 or Global 99.5. Special hello to those persons who I meet as I travel daily, who say, hey, I know you, I know the voice, use the radio, man, or I heard you on the radio. So I just want to say a special hello. Thank you for joining myself and my co-host Jackie Gardner on this program as we seek to share information as to how lives are being transformed. And we acknowledge, along with our technician, Pastor Williams, that the greatest transformation that can take place in one's life is through having a relationship with Christ. Not a church, not a denomination, but your personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I just want to remind you also, tonight, we continue with the Footprints of Hope seminar. It's coming live out of Jamaica. I'm sure Pastor Williams would put the numbers or a link in the chat for those of you who wish to join them tonight. And you can WhatsApp me, 433-6917, if you desire to have the link. I will send it to you as Pastor Glenn O. Samuels, 433-6917. I will send you the link to be a part of the program. And then I want to extend an invitation to those of you, a leadership seminar next week, Saturday, a prayer breakfast, they call it, put on by the Baptist Men's Department under the director, Reverend Stephen Ferguson. So I'm inviting you to be a part of it. The speakers will be the Reverend Trajan Jadoret from New Covenant Baptist Church. The guest speaker will be Elder Dave Williams from Redemption Seventh Adventist Church. And Reverend Stephen Ferguson, who is the host of the Men's Conference Leadership Seminar from Hillside Missionary Baptist Church. That's 8 a.m. next week, Saturday, at the Mount Moriah Baptist Church on Farrington Road. It's a breakfast. There's a $40 fee, which includes the breakfast. So we're inviting the men, inviting the women, not to meet me there, but they ought to beat me there. The theme is, we are in this together, 1 Corinthians 3:9. Okay. Also want to remind you of an event, and Kano Wong will share more about this, the Bahamas National Neighborhood Watch Council having a domestic violence symposium February 8 and 9, 6:30 via Zoom. Okay, so I may have to tap the ID in the chat along with the passcode. And if you wanted me to send a link, you can simply WhatsApp me, 433-6917. And so for me, this week was a beautiful week. I participated with the International Men's Day Elimination of Violence Against Men and Boys Monday. We walked the Ida Street community along with the Urban Renewal. I want to thank Chief Superintendent Rowell, Anthony Cops Rowell, and his team of officers, about at least 30 of them, as we canvassed the Ida Street area and the surrounding community, giving out flyers, tracts, books, talking about violence. What could we do to lessen the impact of violence in the community? Also, I partnered with C.C. Sweeting, the school that I attended, in doing a community walkabout as we seek to reach out to some of the children who were not in school, which was another wonderful experience for me, and to discover that there were some children, would you believe it, were not in school since COVID started. I mean, it's just amazing. And then Thursday was a candlelight vigil at Resurrection Power Ministry with Pastor Kevin Grant, Apostle Kevin Grant. That's the church where the young lady was shot, died right in the front of a church. And so we were able to support FOAM and Dr. Carlos Reed, Dr. Eric Fox, and a candlelight vigil in her memory. So it was a wonderful week as usual. But I just want to welcome those of you today. We will be on Zoom for 1 hour, and then we can go for at least another half hour on, we'll be on the radio for 1 hour, on television, and we can go on Zoom for the next half an hour afterwards when we would have signed off from radio. Welcome, Jackie, it's good to have you. It's good to be back. I don't know if you wish to say hi. Do you wish to say hi?
Oh, I am elated to be back with the beautiful people. I see smiling faces. One of our guests, she's beaming. So that tells me I'm in a good place. So I want to say hello to every single person out there, all of you who met me and asked, why are you not on the radio? So I'm back. It's the month of February. It's the month of love. And we're talking about the mind and the love of the mind. So I'm the right place with the right people at the right time. So it's good to be here.
Amen. I love that. I love that. I love that. And I notice you got on your red too. You're red and you ain't scared.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to show up and I have to be loud. And so I have my red on all the month of Feb. It's a month of love. And it's so much for us, love of ourselves, love for God and love for others. So yeah, I'm beaming my red.
Amen. So folks, we're going to get into the show. I'm going to just briefly introduce you to my guests. I'm going to share a little about them, and they can share any further information that they desire to do. My guest, Christina Johnson, master level therapist who works with individual couples and families. She has a deep respect for the way she does and the lives she has led into. Christina's rigorous education, therapeutic skills, experience with teaching and learning, and own lived experience afforded the insight and ability to engage with and effectively assist the clients from multiple vantage points. That's Christina Johnson. Christina Johnson, by the power invested in Dave Williams, I now confer on you the title, Doctor. So that's Dr. Christina Johnson. Amen. That's right? Yes. And then our next guest, Dr. Helen Rowell, a Bahamian-born counseling psychologist with specialty training in addiction treatment, women's trauma recovery. She's the founder of Path to Wellness Counseling and Therapeutic Services. And I'm sure she will share the rest when there's an opportunity for her to share. My co-host, Jackie, will ask the questions. I'll be in the background monitoring Facebook, YouTube, and doing some other things, sending out the link. So Dr. Helen Rowell, Dr. Christine Johnson, welcome to the program, Transforming Lives.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
Okay, that was excellent. So I don't know between the two of you who want to go first, but you can let me know. Between the two of you, you'll go first. And if you hear me quiet, then I'm just doing some stuff in the background, and Jackie will ask some of the questions. Okay. Okay.
So we're starting, I think you wanted to know, just say a little bit more about who is Miss, you just confer on Miss Christina
Sure.
Johnson,
Well,
the doctorate degree. So we'll start with her. Let's hear a little bit more about who exactly is Miss Christina Johnson. Start with you, Miss Johnson.
Thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. As mentioned, I am a psychotherapist, a master's level. I put in the chat, it would save me 4 more years of school, Mr. Williams, if I could take on that credential that you have bestowed on me. But maybe someday I'll get that designation for real. But yes, I am a marriage and family therapist. I work with individuals, couples, and families. My discipline allows me to work with basically any type of population for a various number of reasons. So that's a little bit about what I do. Most recently, I'm doing a lot more individual therapy work. I do also have the designation of certified life coach. So I also do coaching, and I am a mental health educator as well. I love working with kids and youth. They are so important. And I think mental health education is something that is kind of lacking in our country. So I really aspire to do more in that reign in my career. Thank you.
Wow, a powerhouse guest. So we're so glad to have, I mean, you're loaded already without that 4 years. So once again, welcome to the show. And secondly, we have all the way from Bahamas Academy. I don't know if you remember me from Bahamas Academy, but we have a doctor in the house, and it's always good to have a doctor in the house. Dr. Helen Rowell. Give us a little bit more information about yourself, please. I think it's Helena. I call it Helena.
Hi, everybody. You're right, it's Helen. It's so nice to be here. And it's always a wonderful opportunity to share about a subject I love, which is educating people on mental wellness and mental awareness. So I am a counseling psychologist, and I primarily deal with, specialize in women's trauma, in substance abuse issues, children's issues, not so much like Christina in terms of family and marriage issues. That's her expertise. But we are colleagues, we work together. So it's good to be here with her on the show. And hopefully we could shed some light and
great.
give some good information to your listening and viewing audience.
Well, thank you. I think you might need to move a bit closer. You're coming in muffled, so maybe a little bit closer to your router. And maybe you might be a little bit clearer. So once again, welcome to the show. So another question, this line of work, I mean, you must have patients, lots of studies. What motivated you to enter this line of work? What motivated you? Starting with Christina and then on to the doctor. What motivated you?
Thank you for that question. So what really got me into the field of psychology was in grade 12. We got to take it in school for the first time. And it was just fascinating to me that, all about the brain, all about human behavior. And then once I did my bachelor's degree for 4 years in psychology, I realized, an application of psychology is therapy. Helping people is something I've always been passionate about. And this is a way to kind of blend my two interests. And I've been hooked ever since.
Wow. Interesting. Dr. Rowell? She might have dropped off. Dr. Rowell, are you there? All right, I think she would have to come back in. I know she was having some internet challenges, but we have Miss, and you're going to be the doctor in the house, Miss Johnson. You just have to be. All right, so first question, and just let us know when you're back in. First question, when we talk about mental health, what are we talking about? What it includes? If you were to give a working definition, we throw that word around loosely. What would be your working definition of mental health?
Is that for me or Christina?
Oh, you're back in. Oh, sorry. We didn't hear you. Okay, so we'll give it to you, the doctor. You can go right ahead and answer that question.
Mental health is a very broad term. When we think about mental health, what we're talking about is an aspect actually of our holistic health. We talk about physical health, we talk about spiritual health, and we talk about mental health. They are three main branches of our emotional, of our psychological and social well-being. When we think of mental health, a lot of times in the Bahamas, we think about some abstract thing way out there, in just cyberspace or wherever. But actually, mental health is very connected and rooted with our physical health. There is no physical health. There is no spiritual health. There is no mental health without emotional and mental well-being. So mental health it's an important aspect of who we are, from we are little bitty babies all the way up until adulthood.
I love what you say and how you connected, the different aspects of us, the physical and the mental, because it really impacts how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And, there are major areas of our well-being. And so this is a very important topic, and I wanted to zoom in on it just so our audience can see how vital it is to the whole well-being of an individual. So let's talk about different types of mental. We had a working definition. What are some of the different types of mental illnesses that one can encounter or experience?
You know, that's an interesting question, because what we don't recognize, and that what is important for, I think, us to know, is that mental health conditions can happen to anybody. When we talk about mental health, we talk about an affirmative thing. We want to be mentally healthy. When we talk about mental illness, we want to be free or minimize mental illness. So there are many conditions. Right now, I'd say in the Bahamas, without formal research, we can say that probably a lot of us are going through some functional depression, some anxiety. I have a lot of clients with generalized anxiety. Those are the two major types of mental issues, more common among everyday, walks of life people. Of course, there are more severe and persistent mental illness challenges, such as schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, and bipolar disorder. Those are the more serious mood or thought disorders. But more common for us everyday people, we're going through dysthymia, which is a sort of depression. We're going through major depression and anxiety.
That's interesting, because I was doing a little bit of research, and if anxiety, from your perspective, is the one most common in the Bahamas, the statistics in the US speak to the very same thing, as that is anxiety being the number one type of mental illness that persons are experiencing at the moment. Why do you think that's the case? Why is anxiety so high on that chart? Why? Either of you, Ms. Johnson or Ms. Rowell, Dr. Rowell. Why is anxiety has it always been a big rock issue? Or is it just recently, it raises its ugly head?
I don't want to answer all of it. I want to give Christina a chance to answer if she wants to, but I'd be happy to take the question.
No, I can answer. That's fine. I'm sure there are going to be more questions in my way as well later. But in my opinion, Dr. Rowell, as she mentioned, she and I are colleagues at the moment, and we've been meeting and discussing. And what we personally think right now is the Bahamas, we have gone through two big major crises in Hurricane Dorian and this pandemic, which we are still experiencing. So it's really not hard to understand why at the moment there may be higher than usual instances of anxiety, other mental health concerns at this time, because we've been through a lot recently, and we cannot argue that,
All right. Is there anything you want to add to that, or that's well said?
I can add to that. Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Rowell.
I can add to that. When we look at what anxiety is, how we define anxiety is basically fear, worry, panic, all of those things. And people, we have a reason to be more fearful, like Ms. Johnson said, than before, because we have gone through so much trauma. A term Christina uses, collective trauma. It's like, as a country, we've all gone, whether we have directly experienced Dorian or COVID, or indirectly, we have all been impacted. So I've been seeing in my practice, more people come in for fear-based anxiety and trauma-related issues. And I think it's important for us, it's vital that we normalize that, because we don't want people feeling that, I kind of don't like the word crazy, or your head ain't no good, or those type of terms. I find them very dismissive, and I find them very reductive, because we are all going through it. We all have mental health issues. It's just a scale. It's just a spectrum. Yes. So of course people are fearful. They don't have any jobs. Of course, people are fearful. They don't know how they're going to feed their kids. Of course, people are fearful. Anytime they hear the rain or thunder now, there are some people that's a trigger for them. Am I going to be safe? So safety and health and wellness concerns, I think we have to give people voice to be able to express that without shame and without saying just, oh, go pray about it, or I'll pray for you. Because what? Faith without works is dead. So we have to do something proactive.
All right. I'm not sure we lost you. I'm not sure that was the end of your statement. I think we lost you. Okay. Well, that's an excellent response. Yeah. I love. Okay, you're back in. All right. All right. So while she's returning, our doctor's returning, and we still have Miss Johnson. We're talking about mental health to our audience out there. For those of you on Facebook, Zoom, cable channel 974, in the Zoom room, like I said, and on the radio, mental health is the topic of the day. We want everyone involved. We would soon be going to our chat for some questions and going to our audience and on Facebook. I hope Dave is ready with some of our questions out there. So we are talking about giving center focus on mental health. And we spoke about anxiety being one of the big form of mental illness. But I just want to pause on this one for a while. And I want to get feedback from our special guests in the room who are well able to answer these questions. I'm so glad that we have two individuals that are well able. You notice that they are coming to the bat and they're not even blinking an eye. They are just coming and responding, bold, strong, and courageous. So glad to have you on the show. So let's talk a little bit about trauma and the impact of trauma and how it's connected to mental illness. Because sometimes people think that, I had a traumatic event in my life. I just watched very recently, and I couldn't believe this. A young man, but actually he was married with a child, and they were sharing the story how one day, so this is a professional, high-ranking gentleman, and one day, just out of the blue, he snapped and he started talking like a child. Like he just went into this child voice and curled up and was afraid. And he had like a flashback moment. And from then that gave him almost like several different personalities. So let's talk about trauma and its impact on our mental health. Miss Christina Johnson, you have the mic. Let's start with you.
Thank you. Dr. Rowell is actually a trauma specialist, so I'm sure she'll have more to add after I'm finished, but you're absolutely right. Trauma is, in actuality, what people don't really understand. Trauma is not the event, it's the impact of the event. So an event can be traumatic, but that is not the trauma itself. Trauma is our body's response, our emotional response, our mental health response to an adverse experience. So for example, Hurricane Dorian, for example, the pandemic that we are all still going through. And trauma can manifest in multiple ways. And what I'm seeing most in my work is that it's manifesting in grief, right? So we are mourning the loss of so many things. I'm sure we have all lost somebody in the past year, in the past 2 years of this pandemic. I know I personally have in my own family. Also in loss of normalcy, the pandemic has really changed the way we operate in general. Also, loss of finances, loss of stability. So those are some of the ways that traumatic experiences can impact. It really does. What I'm seeing most often is it manifests in grief.
Let's hear from thank you so very much. Let's hear from our specialist. Dr. Rowell?
Oh, it seems she has dropped out of the Zoom.
Yeah, I think she seemed to be having an internet challenge. Okay, so that was well said in terms of the impact of trauma on mental illness. And this is the last one, only because it is so prevalent. And then we will go to Dave. see if he's ready to get some questions from our audience before I return. But this is a big rock, also a big rock issue in our Bahamas. Substance disorder. Substance disorder. We have lots of, especially in light of, I don't know if it's the pandemic or it's always been within the Bahamas. We have a lot of persons abusing substance, whether it's drugs, alcohol is a really big one that we give a pass to, but it causes massive damage. What about substance disorder? Is that linked in with mental health?
Absolutely. Using substances can negatively impact your mental health. And also negative mental health can influence you to try and alleviate that by the use of substances. You're absolutely right, Ms. Gardner. Alcohol is a drug. It's something that we don't really consider to be as harmful because, it is just so prevalent. You see people, it's very common to see people drinking, but it definitely is an issue. I see one of my also former colleagues in the chat, Mr. William Lund. I'm going to give him a little brief birthday shout out. It's his birthday today, but he does a lot of work in the addictions and substance abuse route as well. And I've learned a lot from him in terms of how it can truly negatively impact lives. Dr. Rowell is also a substance abuse specialist, so I hope she can return shortly because it is not my area of expertise, unfortunately, but I can speak on it a bit. I have seen an increase in substance use and misuse since the pandemic and since Hurricane Dorian. We actually have worked, Mr. Lund and I worked together at the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas doing free group therapy for first responders to Hurricane Dorian, survivors of Hurricane Dorian, and we had been hearing about they had been increasing their substance alcohol intake because of just the stress, the trauma of what they had experienced. So yes, you're absolutely right, Ms. Gardner. It does go hand in hand with mental health.
Okay, Jackie, just before I ask our guests any more questions, I have two persons I need to share. Mr. Keno Wong from the National Neighborhood Watch Community and Reverend Stephen Ferguson. They want to make two special announcements. So go ahead, Dr. Keno Wong.
Well, good afternoon. It's so good to be on your platform once again on a Sunday. And I wish it was my birthday today because how Ms. Gardner said that, happy birthday. I mean, all of our cheekbones just went up. And I was like, wow, I wish one day my birthday would be on so I could get that kind of happy birthday. But it's great to be with you once again. It's good to see some familiar faces on the line. I am Keno Wong, like Brother Dave said. I am the National Chairman for the Bahamas National Neighborhood Watch Council. Our head office is at the Ministry of National Security. And so therefore we are a group of over 167, close to 170 watch groups throughout the Bahamas, which is primarily here in New Providence, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, Abaco, Exuma, and we have a budding program in Inagua. And so, well, we just want to talk about what we're going to be doing on February 7th and 8th. 8th and 9th, Tuesday and Wednesday. We're going to be having a symposium online by Zoom on domestic violence. And we know that this has been something that has been going on in our country for years. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of all the Zoom meetings about it. I'm sick and tired of all of the phone calls and all the chats and all of the WhatsApp messages and all the emails that comes and all the different forms. And so it's time that we who live in these communities actually take this particular evil spirit by the head and just crush it, because these things happen in all of our communities and within all of our families, that there's someone that would have been verbally abused, sexually abused, physically abused, financially abused. Domestic violence comes in so many different categories. And so I take this opportunity to invite all of you who are on, especially those of you who will get the link from Brother Dave, because he has all of your contacts. I've sent him the information, so perhaps he can share it with everybody, to join us on the Zoom platform and see how we can actually strategize to put a dent into this nasty evil spirit that that seem to continue to creep every day in our country. And so I usually tell the folks in the NNWC, the National Neighborhood Watch Program, that we are the first responders. And why use us as the first responders and not the police? Because we are the ones that live in the community. And so if anything happens in the community, we are the first ones to respond. We are the first ones to make the calls. We are the first ones that sees and knows what goes on. And so our primary objective is to observe and report, but also how do we decrease this nasty, evil spirit of domestic violence against women, men, and our children in our country that we all love. And so I hope that many of you who are on today will have a great opportunity of coming on and hearing from our presenter, who is from the Royal Bahamas Police Force by the name of Sergeant Deontay Jones Coakley, who is attached to the Eastern District Police Department and also attached as a liaison officer for the Bahamas National Neighborhood Watch Council. Thank you, Brother Dave, and once again, a pleasant good afternoon to all.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Rowell and Christina Johnson. I have a number of questions I'm going to ask you, but Reverend Stephen Ferguson, there's a special event that I know you want to share. Pastor Williams, can you unmute Reverend Stephen Ferguson? You want to share an event before I go back to my guest?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, how you doing today? And good afternoon to everybody on the platform.
I'm wonderful.
Yes, Pastor Dave, on Saturday, the 12th of February, at 8 a.m., we will be at the Mount Moriah Baptist Church. The Baptist Men Department is spearheading a leadership seminar. Under the theme, we are in this together. And we have a small registration fee of $40, where include your breakfast and your working materials. And also our speakers for that event is Pastor Eugene Jarrett from the New Covenant Baptist Church. He'll be speaking on the topic, actually. We're in this together, and Elder Dave Williams, the host of Uplifting Men, he'll be speaking on the topic, helping others to advance. And so we're inviting the general public to come down, men in particular, those who want to come down to register and be a part of this event, as this is our third annual leadership seminar. And we know that it will be a success with God's help, especially with our speakers, very able men who is able to relate to issues that are taking place in men's life and in our country.
Okay, so I just want to say thanks to you very much, sir.
God bless you, sir. Thank you too.
Okay, good. So folks, we're inviting you to be a part of it. I'm not a part of their church, but I'm going to be there. And so we're going to invite all of you, whether you're a male or a female, a boy, a girl, whatever it is. It transcends any denomination. Don't meet me there. You have to beat me there. So yes, Dr. Christina Johnson and Helen Rowell, I have a few questions I want to ask you now, because we're talking about mental health. Now, Dr. Johnson, I'm going to speak for me now. Watch me good. Shaki laughing. Shaki somewhere. She must have an idea where I'm coming from, right? So Dr. Johnson now, is mental illness real? I'm talking about me now. I have faith in God. I can pray for him to heal me, right? Or my family. So talk to me about mental health, mental illness, because I got faith in God. Why I need to come to Dr. Christina Johnson and Dr. Helen Rowell? And how positive is this therapy? You telling me about mental health? Because I can pray to God. You all go to therapy. I can pray to God. Talk to me, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Rowell.
Thank you for that question. So what I usually say to people who present to me in that way, because, we Bahamians, we are a Christian nation. We do have faith in the Creator. And I just say, why does that have to be mutually exclusive? Why can we not depend on Jesus and also seek medical help? Because that's what therapy and going to a psychologist really is. We don't consider it to be medical help because it has to do with our brain, but somehow we just forget that the brain is an organ of our body as well. So it's like going to the doctor when you're sick. or just going to the doctor for a checkup. But in terms of, the faith aspect of it, I just always say, why can't you lean on both? Because Jesus would want you to get help. Jesus is working through the professionals who he has trained to do what we are trained to do. So honestly, it can be both. Why not both?
So and also Dr. Rowell coming in. Is she still on?
I'm
She is.
here.
Okay, go ahead. 'Cause I got faith in God. You all two tell me, but come
That's a
to
good
for
one for
therapy.
an answer also.
I can pray this away.
Sure. And like I said earlier, faith without works is dead. I'm not going to sit home with a broken leg or a broken arm and pray about it and say God is going to heal me, because he provided medical doctors with training and experiences and healing tools to be able to cure me, to be able to treat me. The same thing, like Christina said, goes for our mental health. Mental health treatment and therapy is a tool. Prayer, faith, belief in God, that's a powerful tool. Why not use both? Why not use even more? Use every tool at your disposal, because another tool, believe it or not, is simply support, family and friends and church support. We need all the tools in our arsenal to be able to work for us so that we can be holistically healthy. You want the best chances of success.
Okay, ladies.
Sometimes even medication works.
Okay, right, because I was going to ask you a little about it, and I need to know the difference. I've heard these two terms, psychiatrists, psychologists. I mean, as far as I understand, they both are psy. What's the difference with them two?
The difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist is that a psychiatrist is a medical doctor. So they have gone to medical school and then they specialize in psychiatry, just like we have cardiologists, just how we have dermatologists, things like that. You can specialize in psychiatry. So a psychologist has not been to medical school, but they have at least a master's degree in a related discipline, and they cannot prescribe medication, but a psychiatrist can, as they are a medical doctor as well.
Okay, so Dr. Rowell wanted to add that, or that's okay. So let's look at some other things now, because we can be real. People listen to us on the radio, on cable TV 974. What are these myths? Why are myths about therapy so harmful? And what are some of these myths? What are some of these myths?
So there's a lot of therapy myths. A lot of people don't really have a full understanding of what I and Dr. Rowell do as therapists and psychologists. So of course, there's going to be a lot of misunderstanding about what we do. So some common therapy myths are like therapy is for weak people. Another therapy myth is that therapy is only for people in severe crisis. Therapy and therapists are judging you when you open up to them. Those are all very common myths, and they really get in the way of people seeking psychological and therapeutic help, because just people do not having a broad enough understanding of the field and our work. It really does get in the way of us being able to do what we do. I know there's a lot of vulnerability associated with it as well, which is why I believe that some people think that, oh, I'm going to somebody to talk to them. They're sitting in this chair across from me. They must be judging me for the things that I say. But that is just absolutely not true. And why therapy myths are harmful, like I mentioned, it gets in the way of people seeking help. It also just it's hard for Dr. Rowell and I also, because I don't know if this is the case for Dr. Rowell. As me, a millennial therapist, when I tell people out socially, I'm a therapist, they're always just like, oh, are you analyzing me right now? And it's just like, no, absolutely not. I'm not analyzing you at all. I'm just out for a good time. So there are a lot of therapy myths floating around. There are a lot of myths about who therapists are floating around, and they are just harmful to the field in general.
I don't, if Dr. Rowell want to add anything, I see Dr. Maria McDonald says, persons who may have gone through a traumatic event, this in the chat, oftentimes do not realize the extent of their damage, yet it's there. So the question is, how can persons be helped if they do not admit, but others can see it? That's a question for you two ladies.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Well, there are several ways I can answer that. One of the things we do in trauma-related work is we don't have to go into all the past and all of the, uncovering all the things that happened when you were 4, 5, and 6, etc. Some trauma work is just skill building. We help people to build skills and give them coping tools to be able to move forward. It's not necessarily about it. It's what they call, I think, psychodynamic instead of psychoanalytic. Psychoanalytic stuff, you have to uncover all of this past hurt, pain, and shame, etc. That's one way of answering that question. Everybody doesn't have to have that level of do the behavior change, do things differently. It's very difficult, though, to assist somebody who doesn't know they need help. What I'm saying is that admitting you have a problem is always the first step. Understanding and recognizing that therapy is voluntarily, unless somebody is being committed to some type of therapy and treatment or the hospital by a medical doctor, or sometimes judges can legally do it. Those are more extreme cases in our society. When I worked in the US, that happened sometimes. People would be committed to the hospital because we didn't want them to hurt themselves or anybody else. It's called a 1013. But for most people, what they need is gentle guidance and support to be able to say, hey, I need help, and here's how I can solve it. Because therapy is intimidating. It's intimidating. Like Christina said, you are required to be very vulnerable and share your dirty laundry and all the family secrets, and that's shameful. But what we're here to say is, one of the principles, we're guided by some of the same principles that the medical field is, and sometimes even more stringent. Why? Because we have to maintain people's confidentiality and privacy, because we deal with sensitive information, and that is sacred. I tell people all the time, I do sacred work because I'm dealing with people's lives. So it's vital for people to be able to feel like the space is safe, to be able to come to me or any mental health practitioner, to be able to want to get help.
Okay, let me ask my good friend. I didn't know he could give me counsel, Dr. William Lund. Pastor Williams, unmute Dr. William Lund, my schoolmate, my basketball player, everything. Because I heard Christina talk about. So William, I didn't know I could go to you for counsel. Share with me your experience.
Well, what they're saying is correct. First of all, you have to admit and acknowledge you have a problem. For years, I was in drug abuse, in and out of institutions, in and out of prison and whatnot, because I didn't even know I had a mental problem. That is the reason why when I got, the last time I went to prison, I was like 12, 13 years ago, I came to a place where I recognized I needed help. That's why I joined Dr. Allen. That's how I met Christina. That's how I met Dr. Helen Rowell. I got the opportunity to work with both. And I'll tell you the key thing when you're dealing with people of trauma and people who have anxiety issues is you have to deal with them from a place of love. You have to deal with them from a place of care. And I'm just from dealing with Dr. Christina and Dr. Helen Rowell, that is the thing. We were able to help people who were traumatized and mental issues with Hurricane Dorian, and we were able to help quite a few of them because of the approach we took. Because I heard you talking about Christianity and psychology. But let me tell you something: the Most High God provided the psychologists, because just how we need the medical doctors. That's the same way. I wouldn't have been the stand today if I didn't go through the process with Dr. Allen and the family and seek help for my mental condition. So they're spot on. But the main thing I would like to share through all of this is we definitely need Christ, because Christ is the answer solutions to any issue what you're going through. But we need coping skills, and we need to learn how to love. That's to me the main things what people are missing. People are abandoned, people aren't being loved, and people have been abused. And so only truly love And an atmosphere of love and caring can set you free.
Okay, thank you, Dr. William Lund. My friend, my brother, we go way back. We ain't gonna say because they can know our age. Not that we ashamed of it, but thank you. It's good to share your testimony. I know you're always bold. A question coming for the doctors, and then I'm gonna open it up to the audience if they want a question or comment. Is there a conflict from Separation Lifestyle Ministries between a psychiatrist and a psychologist professionally in methods of treatment? I hope I'm clear with that question.
Is there a conflict between
Yes, is there a conflict between a psychiatrist and a psychologist professionally in methods of treatment?
Yeah.
No, there is no conflict. We complement each other.
Okay.
I'm happy to hear from Mr. Lund because he's absolutely correct. We all work closely with Dr. David Allen, who is a psychiatrist. I am a psychologist. He mentors me because he's a medical doctor. I am a therapist, which means I wrote a dissertation and I do assessments, etc. But I don't write script. I don't write prescriptions. So it's important for the psychologist on board any medical team and the psychiatrist on board any medical team to be able to work together for the good of the client. And one of the things that the psychologist will send the client to the psychiatrist for is to make sure that they're medically stable on the right prescription medication if necessary. And one of the things the psychiatrist and the person for where we dialogue, converse in a compassionate and safe atmosphere for their well-being. So we complement each other.
All right, Dr. Christian Johnson, you want to comment on that before I open it up to the folks?
Sure, I completely agree with Dr. Rowell. She's absolutely right. It's not a conflict, it's a collaboration. So where we don't have the training medically, the psychiatrist steps in. Psychiatry, I know that they do have some courses in counseling, but not as in depth as somebody whose entire degree is in it. So it's kind of just like where one gives, the other takes. We balance each other out completely, and it just emphasizes the mind-body connection, right? When it comes to emotional health, your physical health is part of that as well. When it comes to physical health, your emotional and mental health is part of that. So we all go hand in hand. It is very collaborative. So I completely agree with Dr. Rowell mentioned.
Okay, so one of the things I want to thank you two ladies for too is, so the takeaway for me personally is that I need to stop talking about I can just pray this thing away, and I need to go get this help. Okay, so that's my takeaway today. But folks, I want to open it. Jackie, anything you want to say? I want to open it up now. Persons are on the Zoom. We always make space for your questions, your comments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, while we're getting, yes, we're open up. We can just entertain one question. I want to know, can a mental illness be totally cured, or it's something that you have to live with for the rest of your life? Is there a cure for it, or you just have to manage it?
I think it depends. From my experience in training, it depends, because here's the thing. We have some mental issues that are purely situational. I'm depressed because I don't have a job. I'm depressed because I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I'm depressed because, situational things. Guess what? When I got a job, I got money, I paid my bills. I'm not depressed anymore. It's situational. Now, there are other persons who have clinical depression or clinical severe and persistent mental illness that requires longer term treatment, that is sometimes chronic, and that's okay. That is okay. I think what we wanted to emphasize today is that on some level we're all hurting, and I think we mask it. The image, the social media. We saw a few. Was it last week, that young lady who was Miss US in the States? She looked like she had everything to live for.
Yeah.
But apparently was dealing with high functioning depression, where she didn't feel worthy and she didn't feel valuable. And that's what the stigma does. And that's why we wanted to say, hey, we need to end this stigma. We need to end this shame, because that takes away our hope. That takes away our value to think, hey, it's okay if you have issues, if you have problems. We all do. let's work on finding a solution. Let's work on supporting you. Come and talk to somebody professionally, talk to somebody who you trust, talk to a family member so that you can get on the path to wellness.
Oh, right, thanks. And I just want to greet some of my good friends, Dr. Leslie McMillan and Dr. Raymond King, my schoolmate, and also the Commodore of the Defense Force, of course. Is always open if you want to comment or share. I know in case of Dr. Raymond King, I know he always got to be careful what he say, because anything he say, people take that and run with it. But Dr. Raymond King, it's good to have you joining us and tuning in. Dr. King, you go ahead, Dr. King. You want to greet us?
Oh, yes. A pleasant good afternoon, and thanks for the invite to the host, the moderators, and the panelists. Well-informed presentation. Much has been gleaned. Of course, mental health is something that we are paying more and more attention to in the military. We have the services of professionals external to the organization, but we are looking very closely at bringing persons on board so we could have that professional help for our members and have it readily available. And so we are conscious of mental health, the implications, and the subtleness of it. But I want to thank you for your presentation. I'm more informed. Thank you, Brother Dave.
Okay, thank you. That's my friend and brother, my church brother, my schoolmate and everything, Dr. Raymond King. That's the Commodore of the Defense Force. I was glad that he took the opportunity to just tune in, in spite of all the heat that was on the Defense Force because of an incident that happened recently. So folks, we just want to open it now to persons tuning in who wish to share. We don't want to be selfish. We want to give you, maybe you can raise your hand or somehow we open it. Pastor Williams, we want to let's allow them now. They want to ask a question or give a comment. We're open for that right now.
I think we have one question in the chat that we didn't address. It's how valuable, so while we can go ahead and open up the mic, but the question is how valuable is pastoral counseling and is there limits? So pastoral counseling and is there a limit? How valuable is it?
If I may come in now, Dave.
Go ahead, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with you again. And as usual, each subject is extremely important, and this one is. And I can answer that question that just was asked. Being a pastor, it is important because, believe it or not, we are trained in the same thing. They didn't let me out of my class, got my degree, till I took my counseling class, my psychology class and all like this, as it fits into a pastor, with all those points. But the point I want to bring attention to is this, that there is a physical component to mental illness. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Those of us who read quite a bit and so forth, we are told that if you are dehydrated, you can't think, you can't this. So, the brain doesn't function as it does. I find that in my case, right? Sometimes when I get that way, I drink water and my brain and I'm as fresh as anything else. And then there's another aspect where it's physical. If the brain is shrinking, and the ladies who spoke, I'm sure they know what I'm talking about. And certain areas of the brain isn't functioning anymore. It is a type of mental illness that is almost beyond the control of the person who's suffering it. But here's the point I want to make. We ought to be able to say to those who are close to these kinds of people, or if we have to deal with them, we need to understand that the what's happening in certain persons at certain stages in their lives and so forth, it is beyond their control. And if that can be mentioned, or you can have a separate program for that, so that those who are related to these kinds of people, I'm talking about the physical aspect of mental illness. There are times when it is what it is, and it is even the patient can't understand it. But those of us who deal with them, if we do, It'll be good for us, and it will be good for them. That may have to be a separate presentation, but for us who are active and what have you and so forth, the physical component is you've got to nurture the brain. Don't get dehydrated. Sleep, sufficient sleep. Do not go 36, 40 hours without rest and all of that. It affects the brain and the functioning, and it can lead to all kinds of things. So this is a very important subject that everybody, the well, caretakers and parents and teachers even need to understand that we should deal with it accordingly. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Macmillan. I see Apostle Clement Russell and Transforming Lives got their hands raised. Go ahead, Dr. Clement Russell.
Hello.
Yes, go right ahead, sir. Unmute your mic. There we go.
Dr. Russell, go ahead. Apostle Clement Russell.
Blessings. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, pleasant good afternoon to this beautiful audience. Thanks so much for choosing such excellent guests, and even those who had something to say. Very, very, very informative. I'd like to make one or 2 points. One, we need to understand why people choose not to seek help. In some cases, there is ignorance. They really don't know they need help. That's attached somewhat to what Pastor Macmillan was saying. But the chief reason is pride. Simply because of the stigma that goes along with mental health. They take that to the extreme by saying you're crazy. But if we really want to get into the truth, all of us will have to be crazy if we're not going to face the fact that we all have mental illness. And I'd like to make a very clear point where it comes from. Mental illness comes from bad knowledge. Bad knowledge.
Agreed.
Why? We are managers of ourselves. And our bad intake of knowledge governs us. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So we use this philosophical term, garbage in, garbage out. But we have got to pay attention to the seriousness of the knowledge that is governing a person. And we also have to relate to them in love patiently, because it's very serious. When you can see that a person have a problem and they can't see it, and the real response you're going to get from them is, you got a problem, not me. So you know how serious that is. Sometimes it's a wife, sometimes it's a husband, it's a daughter, a son, a family member, neighbor, a co-worker. And I want us to understand that this is all over the place. I was so happy to hear Commodore King recognizing the need to have in-house. That's just how serious it is. The average position we have taking place in this country is the sick ministering to the sick. And until we come to the place where we can be honest about our mental conditions and how, again, systemically, we are fed to make sure we don't have good sense and have good health, good blood, which functions the brain.
Okay,
all these issues. All right, sir.
Okay, so thanks. I just want to, I got a question I want to take from Facebook to the doctors, and then I see Transforming Lives got his hand, and soon we may have to sign off the air, and we can continue on Zoom for a few minutes, another 15 minutes. To the doctors, do you have many folks who suffer a relapse? That's coming from Facebook. Do you have many folks who suffer a relapse?
In your experience, Dr. Rowell and Dr. Johnson? They said many.
Well, I could speak to this even from my experience. I've worked as a program coordinator for a mental health and substance abuse community program in Georgia for about 10 years. And what we know from seeing patients is, even when I see patients here, is that sometimes relapse is part of the disease, especially if you're dealing with alcohol and drug addiction. The research says that it takes upward to 11 times. It's part of the characteristic of alcohol and sometimes mental health is chronic relapse. And it goes back to what the gentleman was saying earlier about sometimes we don't like to admit that we have a problem. We have this thing where we are in denial that it's that we have a problem. We don't want to admit it. And so we keep getting stuck in that place where we're not aware. And to even speak to what the Commodore
I think some internet challenge. Maybe we might ask Dr. Johnson, or she's still on, or ask Dr. Johnson to share her view about the
first responders tend to have PTSD, so invulnerability.
I think we lost again. Dr. Johnson, you want to comment, and then we can take, I'm transforming lives. I got to sign off the radio.
Sure, no problem. As Dr. Rowell was saying, relapse truly is part of the process. It's really not something that, everybody goes into addiction work with the goal, I never want to use drugs or use substances again. But part of the compassionate nature of what we do as therapists and mental health professionals is to assist our clients through what usually can be just part of the process, which is relapse. So it's not really about never using again. It's how can I help myself get to a point where if I do use again, I can look at myself with compassion. I can then pick myself back up and try once again, because it's really more about the insight that you learn through the process rather than the result. That's something that we've learned in our therapist training. Sometimes it's more about the journey than it is about the destination. So that would be what I add to that.
Okay, so thanks. I'm gonna get Pastor Williams. I see my good friend Marissa Mason-Smith, who worked with Zonta. I always invite you to bring us some greetings in your experience of working with women. I know you work specifically with women and girls with domestic violence. But Pastor Williams, I see you have a hand up. That's Transforming Lives. And then Miss Marissa Mason-Smith, bring us some greetings.
Yes, good evening, everyone. There are two things I'd like to point out. The first one has to do with the, ethics for me as a pastor. I've had women come to me wanting to discuss issues, and shortly after they begin, I realized that they want to discuss matters relating to what I call female reproductive issues, whether she is talking about not having money to get pads when a period is on, and I find a nice way to steer them gently to another female. I had that situation right after Hurricane Matthew. I don't know why they always ask to see the pastor, not even the pastor's wife. But this lady started talking about how things were tough and her period is on, she didn't have pads. I said, give me 1 second. And I called one of my nurses over. I said, I need you to talk to her for me, please, and then get back to me. And so the nurse talked with her and she said, okay, this is the situation. She needs ABC. And I said, okay, fine, let's deal with it. The next thing relates to they advise us knowing when to refer. There are some matters that you can do as what we call, even though professional counselors don't like us to use the word peer counseling, but that's the best term that I can find right now. You run across certain situations and you realize, okay, I don't have the skills for this. I help to maintain the network at the South Bahamas Conference, but there are times when I run across matters that I say, something, need someone else to come in and deal with this. And so that's something else that we also do as pastors. you have to realize when you're quote unquote out of your league, you can only take a person so far. So if I go to a doctor for a checkup, my checkup is due next month, annual checkup, they see something, they will say, look here, I'm going to refer you to so on and so forth, because their knowledge is greater than mine. And so that is also something that I practice as a pastor. I know when to refer because I realize, hey, this is outside of my skill level. And so that is something I would encourage persons to do, though. As the apostle said, realize, there's no shame in needing help. In the same way, I'm not going to stay home and pray away a broken arm. I'm going to go get some assistance. If I'm having problems with my thinking pattern, they're not going in the way they normally should go, then I need someone to help me walk through the process and realize what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and help me to find new methods of thinking to solve the problem. And yes, if it means going to S. Sandlands to get a little medication and spend some time there and working with group therapy, then you do that also, because we need to stop, like I said, the stigma. There are too many persons walking around functioning every day who really need psychological help in one aspect of the other. So if we can break the stigma of it, it will help a whole lot of us.
Okay, so folks, I just want to just say to you, we have to sign off of the radio, but we still can continue on Zoom for another 15, 20 minutes, okay? Folks, you've been listening to this program, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, on Facebook, Zoom, and YouTube. I'm Dave Williams, along with my co-host, Jackie Gardner. We're getting ready to sign off. We always sign off by reminding of one thing, and that is, there's nothing more important than a relationship with Christ. In the midst of all the discussion and everything that is shared today, there's nothing more important than having a relationship with Jesus Christ. Not a church, nor denomination, but we talk about your personal relationship with Jesus Christ, who gives us a guarantee of eternal life and to have it now. We all want to die in Christ, and the only way we can die in Christ is to live in him. Amen. So folks, I just want to thank you for tuning in. Same time, same station next week. Have a wonderful afternoon. My good friend, Mrs. Marissa Mason-Smith, you still there? Are you willing to greet us?
Well, hello, good afternoon to you, brother Dave, and to Lady Jackie, and to your wonderful panelists and guests this evening. I think you have the finest and the best in Dr. Rowell. I think she's the best we have, and really, truly respect her and her professional presentations, and also what she brings to her craft and her profession, and of course to your other guests. I just want to say that I do believe that this topic is so timely and so important, and we need more of such awareness, because in our community, everyone is struggling with something. And as we've seen through COVID, we've seen an increase in domestic violence. We've seen the increase in so many challenges in persons' lives and communities. So making persons aware of the opportunities for them to be habilitated, rehabilitated, and to get the knowledge of where to go is very important, and I commend you for it. And I've also found, as an HR professional, outside of Zonta, I'm an HR professional who, and presently the ombudsman of the University of the Bahamas, but there are lots of persons who need this kind of information. And so we need to have more of this conversation, because if we look at it from a national perspective, when there is an increase in sickness, absences from work, there is also a decrease in productivity. And that is something that we need to measure, that we're having too much loss of productive hours due to persons' mental health, physical health, psychological health, and even gender-based violence. So I just want to say that we need everyone to be healthy, but to go and get the right help and to get the right information. So I commend you, Brother Williams, and of course, Sister Jackie, for this topic. And I hope that this will continue as we go through, because we can never get enough time. But God bless you. God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And I appreciate you. Dr. Rowell, you're my number one. And I pray God's continued blessings on your practice. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to say thanks. So I'm just going to allow our guests, if they want to share more, if there's anybody else might want to give a comment. We don't want to, you never want to leave you out. If there was a question you want to ask the doctors, if not, then I'm going to ask the doctors to share more information as to how they can help us talking about mental illness. Okay, well, Dr. Christine Johnson, Dr. Helen Rowell, there's no more questions. So continue to share some information about mental illness.
Before you go on, can I just share some more?
Go ahead, Apostle.
I'm thankful that the connection of loss, manpower, productivity, hours. We need to take special note of that. That is a program within itself. And I trust that you all are taking notes when people make suggestions. And so when you look at really addressing this problem from the knowledge base, because there's always an origin or a root problem of which need to be addressed. And while you have the different aspects of the practical accessing of information to help the individual, if especially the psychologists and the psychiatrists who they come to for help, these people must have a connection with God. What's this now? From the position of born again, not religious. See, we have a problem when you hear me talk about that bad knowledge. We have a problem with religion, because when you, the scripture says, by beholding you become changed. So if you are connected to bad knowledge religiously, it confirms you in a position of instability. Watch this. When it comes to the truth, you need the truth to set you free from you. In other words, man that is born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. The scripture says that the heart is deceitfully wicked, and who can know it? These positions states to us that ain't no problem we having is going to be solved by our human knowledge. So when the therapist is born again, he or she rests in the confidence that when they approach God concerning the client as an individual, God ministers through them to the individual. That's a position for permanent help. I'm not saying that everybody would receive and get the permanent position. But what I'm saying is it is mandatory that we know that the knowledge that is needed for the solution for our sin problem, of which we nurture through the bad knowledge, which translates into these bad behaviors, pressures, and also the diseases in our bodies because it's malfunctioning because of the bad knowledge.
All right, so Apostle, I just want to say thanks. I want to give my guests a chance. If there's any more questions just before we close, any more questions for our guests? Today we're talking about mental health, the stigma of it. Our guest is Dr. Christina Johnson, Dr. Helen Rowell, psychologist, mental health specialist, And so we just want to extend, if there are any more questions for our guests, just before we ask them to share, take a few minutes and share any closing remarks. Any questions you want to ask Jackie, or if not, then we could ask our guests any final words, pointers or tips, whatever that they want to leave with us. And I just want to let them know we're always welcome. You're welcome. We're always open. Anytime you have an event, you can contact us, be a part of the program, or you wish to discuss something else, okay? So if there's no questions, if Jackie, if there's nothing else you want to say, I'm just going to ask our guests to share their final remarks.
Over to our guest.
I think just to close off, piggybacking off a little bit of what Apostle Russell just said, I'm sitting here reflecting on his quote of bad knowledge. And what that really took me back to was bad knowledge is basically stigma, in my opinion, right? So stigma is skewed and misinformed logic. And I feel like if we applied the logic of stigma of mental health towards other aspects of health, we can really see how the logic is flawed. So as a therapist, I like to think about myself as an emotional hygienist. You know how we have dental hygienists? Well, Dr. Rowell and I are kind of emotional hygienists. So imagine we were misinformed about going to get our teeth cleaned, right? So stigma would say, getting your teeth cleaned means something is wrong with your mouth. No, it just means that you are proactive about your oral health. It cares that you care. It shows that you care about it, right? Stigma would say, girl, her teeth must be loose and about to drop out her mouth, how she went to the hygienist. No, it just shows that, getting your teeth cleaned does not mean you have a problem. And even if there was a problem, what would be wrong with that? You're at the right place to get the problem dealt with, right? So when we apply the logic, the skewed logic of stigma from mental health onto other aspects of health, we see that it holds absolutely no weight.
Thank you. Just before Dr. Rowell and Dr. McDonald, are you still on? There's a special program coming up that you shared with me. Can you unmute your mic and share it with your audience, please? Sorry, I should remember that earlier. Dr. McDonald?
Yeah, a pleasant good afternoon to everyone. This is indeed a very timely topic.
Good evening.
I love it, yes. Beginning on Tuesday of this week, Global Chaplaincy Center will be starting a new session class for persons wishing to become chaplains. We've just graduated a group of chaplains on last Sunday, and on Tuesday coming, we will begin our training again. I don't know if you're aware, but chaplains are really needed. We have chaplains, but we also need more chaplains. Based on the Hurricane Dorian in 2019, that really showed us that we really needed more chaplains because we did not have sufficient chaplains that were able to work with the people. So if you are interested, you can call me 357-8895. That's 357-8895. And Global Chaplaincy Center is also an international organization in the United States and Canada. Thank you so much, Elder Williams.
Okay, thank you very much. Is Dr. Helen Rowell, is she back on yet? Can anybody let me know?
So.
Okay, share with us what final words you want to leave with your audience now.
Well, I just want to thank you, Mr. Williams and Miss Jackie, for having me on your program, for Christina for, being here as well, collaborating. And thank you to Miss Mason for all of the kind words. Miss Marissa, I have a lot of respect and admiration for the work you do as well. I think what I want to leave the audience with is that we are here to help. We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to shame you. We as mental health providers are here to support you. We're human too. I'm not ashamed to tell people I've been to therapy. No, not because it was required by school, but because I realized I'm human and I wanted to be the best version of me possible. And I'll go again if I need to. So therapy works. I know it works because I've been the patient and the clinician. And I think it's vital, it's imperative that we as Bahamians stop pretending like we're okay when we're not, and that we reach out and support each other because these are trying times. Like I said, we never really healed from Dorian. We're going through COVID. It's a lot. It's a lot. So we need each other's support, and that's what we're here to do. I'd ask the audience if they want to reach me. I'm always giving out my phone number, 422-6944. Feel free to call me, set up an appointment. I do speaking engagements, I do group sessions, I do individual sessions. Again, I'm here to help and support. And if I'm not able to help you in the way you need, I can at least refer you to someone who is able to be that support for you. But we want to heal our nation, and part of it is through mental health and wellness and awareness. And I believe we can heal together.
Thanks. Christina, Dr. Christina Johnson, you want to show the number or somebody, person want to reach you also?
Absolutely. You can reach me by email at brightsidebahamas@gmail.com and also at WhatsApp on 425-1542. Thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, so I just want to say, Jackie, any closing remarks before we sign off, if you're still there?
I'm still here. I just want to say kudos to our guests. Thank you so much for being so transparent. And it was a wonderful show. Glad to be a part of it.
To those of you who took the time to join Jackie and I, we wish to thank you for taking the time out. This week is an exciting week for me. I get to go back into the prison after not being there for almost 2 years. So I'm looking forward to hanging with the guys. We talk, we share. I'll start the program. I'll go into the female Wednesday and the men also, and then I'll go back into the female and the men Thursday. So I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been there for quite some time, but like everything else, we be thankful for whatever Christ has done, what he's doing, and will continue to do. Folks, you've been listening to this program, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, and we're here every Sunday, 4 to 5, Cable TV 974. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. And I encourage you on behalf of Jackie and I to have a wonderful afternoon. Greetings, everybody. You can greet folks. Greetings.
Thank you, everyone.